Parents of the 11 pupils who died in a scholar transport crash in Merafong on Wednesday morning say the pain of losing their children is unbearable. Yesterday, they provided DNA samples to help identify the learners who were burnt beyond recognition. The children died after a bakkie crashed into their vehicle, causing it to overturn and burst into flames. For more on this, we're joined by Executive Director of the National Professional Teachers Organisation of South Africa, Basil Manuel. Basil, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Have to offer my deepest condolences to families and obviously of those affected. How is NAPTOSA supporting educators and school staff in dealing with this unfortunate tragedy?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. At first, of course, let me add to those wishes of condolences to the parents and to the pupils at the school, the classmates, the teachers, and the community as a whole, because a loss like this impacts on many, many more people than one can imagine, and the trauma that the survivors have suffered. And this is what we have essentially called for in terms of the teachers, as well as, of course, the learners that were directly involved, as well as the classmates, that we need to get the program together to ensure that there is counseling, there is psychosocial support. And that has been promised by both national and the provincial departments, and we are happy with that. But in addition to that, there are many, many other measures that are needed. We've got to start looking at the broader debate on scholar transport. It is not going to change that we have millions of children being transported daily. But what should change is how they're transported and the quality of the transport.
You do raise an important issue, and that is the quality of the transport. From the little information that is available surrounding this accident is that both vehicles that were involved, primarily that which was transporting the kids, were roadworthy. Is there any other information that you have? And obviously, what are your sentiments on how can the provision of transport be improved?
At first, no, we don't have any additional information, and we take a step back from that, wanting the authorities to do a proper investigation without interference. And of course, we owe that to the parents. But we've got to look at the broader picture. We know that at this very moment, there's a debate in the Eastern Cape about closing 2,000 non-viable schools. And whilst one understands that, one questions, so how do these kids get to school? And that feeds into this broader aspect with this very accident, how children get to school. Millions of kids are walking to school every day, risking life and limb. And then those that can are in transport that many parents don't know exactly what the quality is. We've spoken to parents who've told us that when they see the transport picking up their kids, and you must know they're rushing to work at the same time, there's one or two kids in the transport and everybody looks happy. They don't realize and they don't know that by the end of the transport route, some of these vehicles have been overcrowded with children. We've seen ourselves how children get dropped at pickup points by the very transport providers and then shared, and so that they all go in one direction and that one vehicle doesn't go to 3 or 4 schools. And that is how some of this additional overcrowding happens. But it is about a debate, and the school can't solve it. But the school has to keep a watchful eye to inform parents when Kumbis and whatever else arrive at school overcrowded. Parents must be informed. Secondly, of course, it is the transport authorities. It is easy to say the education department, but they must facilitate more than they can fix. They must facilitate that discussion between parents as well as transport providers, but more importantly, with the transport authorities, because this has been going on since time immemorial. And we've had hundreds of these accidents, and there are many simply waiting to happen. Now, without intervention, with the will to solve it, we will have the next one, and we'll have the conversation the next time this happens.
Basil, what are the expectations of these transporters of school children? outside of getting them from point A to point B? I mean, what happens in between? You've talked about some of the transport being overloaded. I think the education MSc in Gauteng, Matumaculwane, if I read correctly, said he counted as many as 30 or 40 kids coming out of a single vehicle that had no capacity to do that, I think is the one aspect. And then there also the soft skills of how do you handle learners from point A to point B.
There are a number of things that you've highlighted there. First of all, what do these drivers do between point A and point B, the morning and the afternoon? Now, many of them are single transport riders. They don't go back for a second load, and this is the only income. And we can sympathize with trying to make a living. And so, but at the same time, we cannot sympathize by squeezing out so much that you just get a few cents more to live and endanger the lives of other people. Now, not all transport doesn't run during the day. Some of them, of course, run throughout the day. But then when it comes to soft skills, how do you control 30, 25, 19 children in a single vehicle? The kids are going wild, they are singing, they are dancing, the music is going at decibels that can deafen. And these are some of the concerns we have. But there are even additional concerns. There are concerns about safety of the little girls and the little boys when there are bigger children touching unnecessarily when they shouldn't be. And this is what parents need to realize, that when the situation is created where many things can go wrong, something will go wrong. That's why we as a parent community have to stand up. We as a school community, and then of course the policing community, have to assist us in fixing this, because there are untenable things that are happening. I've seen with my own eyes a child fall out of a bakkie, but that was a few years back in Pietermaritzburg, riding right in front of me, and the back door fell open and the child fell out. Fortunately, nobody was going fast enough that poor kid could have been killed. The child wasn't injured, but just imagine what could have happened. And this is the type of thing we need to prevent.
Should we go as far as advocating for national policy on how transport should be provided? What are the various parameters, the type of vehicles that can be used? I mean, is a bakkie a safe mode of transport, particularly when you highlight some of the incidents such as that which you witnessed a couple of years ago?
Now, there are certain measures in place, but of course it depends on who it applies to. A few years ago, we heard that bakkies could not be used. But of course we were wrong, because it did not include this type of transport. And you're absolutely right. We've got to have a debate on how do we live up to the constitution of our country that says in the best, that we must act in the best interest of the child. This can't be in the best interest. We've got to talk about learner transport as a broader phenomenon where it involves the education department. I know that there are serious issues of costs, but at the same time, when you go into your average rural area, you've driven on one of those roads and seen little children walking miles to get to a place of learning. And of course, with grass taller than they are. And you can't even begin to imagine the dangers they have to go through. So when it comes to transport, it is a big discussion. When you talk about closing schools and putting learners on the road, it's a huge one. And we've seen this debate happen in this very year, where there have been cost-cutting measures, where transport has not arrived and not stopped. We are not doing a service to our children, to the dignity of our children, to the dignity of our parents, when we don't have this debate and try to provide dignified transport.